This is part two of the lesson called "The Native Americans and Mexicans Are Not the Children of Israel." I had left out explain the sons of Jacob through four wives the Lord have blessed them. That how Abraham and Shem was a black nation, and how two black people only had black children. Because, like I said, it's impossible for a Chinese person to have black babies. It is impossible. You're not gonna see that, and you're not gonna hear that in history. And it's like it's impossible for Israelites like ourselves to have Chinese babies. Because when you're a black man, you make with a black woman, you're gonna have black children. It's just like it is. It's just that simple. And you got other nations, you got these other camps out here teach otherwise because they want to justify marrying these heathen women. And they want to justify everybody can be saved by calling them Israelites. And the Bible said that all 12 tribes of Israel were black. They was always mistaken as Ethiopian and the Egyptians. So I'm gonna go back into the lesson. I'm gonna go to Genesis chapter 42. Genesis 42, then we'll go back into the book called From Babylon for 2 by 2. So Genesis chapter 42 and verse 1 through 8. Genesis chapter 42 and verse 1 through 8. And it says right here, now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, and said unto his sons, why do you look upon one on another? And he said, behold, I heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get ye down thither and buy us from this, that we may live and not die. And Jacob and Joseph, 10 brothers, went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, said not with his brother, for he said, at least peradventure, and miscarriage before him. In verse 5, the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, and for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Verse 6, Joseph was the governor over the land, and he was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brother came and bowed down themselves before him, with their face touching the earth. Verse 7, Joseph saw his brother, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, which ye come? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Joseph knew his brother, but they knew him not. So I'm gonna stop right there. So the brothers went down and bowed down to Joseph, that they thought that was the Egyptian and the governor of Egypt at that time, where they were selling corn and stuff. But they didn't even recognize Joseph, but Joseph recognized them instantly, just like that. And why they didn't recognize Joseph? Because when he was sold in slavery, though, years that he became a grown man and governor. And not just that, because he was black, just like the children of Ham. Just like he was black. The children of Ham was black, just like the sons of Jacob. And he looked just like the Egyptian, even though if he had the Egyptian clothes on or not. He was black, and he was black, just like the Egyptians. Now I'm gonna go back to the book called From Babylon for 2 by 2, written by Rudolph R. Wizard. I'm going to read page 33 in chapter 4. I'm going to read it again. It says, originally all Hamites and Shemites were black. Abraham was a black Shemat and descendant of Shem. And so pretty much originally Ham and Shem was a black nation. It's just common sense why Joseph was mistaken as an Egyptian, because he was black just like them, just like the brothers of Jacob was also black as well. These were some Hebrew black people. They look just like the Hamites. Then I'm going to go to page 41. Actually, page 34. I'm sorry, page 34, it says, hold on. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, were all black people. This shall prove to you by Gertrude Memphis. Joseph was sold down. He was sold down into Egypt as a slave. We found 42nd chapter of Genesis that he became the vicar of Egypt, and Joseph's 10 brothers came into Egypt. Egypt is in Africa. That's in Africa. That's the land of that's the black people's land. And not just that, Canada was part of Africa too, northeast. And to buy corn because the famine was in the land. All newcomers who come into Egypt and had to buy corn for Joseph. But Joseph's 10 brothers came to Africa. They did not recognize him. That's what the Bible says. They didn't recognize Joseph, but he recognized them instantly. And they did not recognize him because Joseph had grown up, and the Egyptians were black people, just like the sons of Jacob. And Jacob's 10 brothers described Joseph to be another black Egyptian. We know this to be true because the 10 brothers returned and reported to their brother that the man who is the Lord of the land spoke to us roughly. Furthermore, Joseph had to, so he said the land, so they said the ruler of Egypt at that time spoke to us roughly, so they thought that he was speaking to another Egyptian, a ruler or regular Egyptian. But they don't even know that was Joseph at that time who was selling the corn. And they didn't even recognize him. Joseph like, man, these Negroes don't even recognize me, but I sure recognize them how they sold me into slavery, though. But they didn't even recognize Joseph. They didn't even recognize him being the governor of Egypt. So in order for you to look like the seeds of Ham, that means you got to be black just like them. And the children of Israel looked just like the seed of Ham because they was also a black nation too. Now, this is not all, though. Now I'm going to go to Genesis chapter 50. Genesis chapter 50, I'm going to start at verse 8 through 11. And it says right here, all the house of Joseph and his brother and his father's house, only they little ones and they flocks and they herbs and they left in the land of Goshen. They went up with them both chariots and horsemen. It was very great company. So this was Joseph and some of the people in chariots in Egypt. He had them come to guard them. And not just that, but the sons of the children of Jacob, those 12 sons, all together, they was right there. They about to go. They about to go to the land of Canaan. They about to go bury their father, because he had commanded to take him back to the Canaan and bury his body there. Right. So verse 10, they came to the threshing floor, and of Attai, which is beyond Jordan. And there they moaned with a great, very sore lamentation. He made the moaning of his fathers. He moaned for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land of the Canaanites saw the moaning of the floor of the Attar, and they said, this is a grievous moaning to the Egyptian. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizmael, which is beyond Jordan, beyond the Jordan. So I'm gonna start right there. So they say right here, this is the Canaanites in the land of Canaan. They witnessed this great company. So they said, look, man, this is a grievous day for the Egyptian. And they didn't even know that it was the Hebrews they came to, they didn't even know that it was the Hebrews that came to the land of Canaan to bury their dead. All they see is a bunch of Egyptians, but they didn't know that it was the Hebrews was amidst them too. If the Hebrews wasn't black, then more likely it'd be a grievous day for the Hebrews and the Egyptian. If the Hebrews was white, according to some of these camps claim that the Hebrews was not all black. They would say the Hebrews or the Egyptian. But no, they said all the Egyptian. They said the Egyptian, it must be a grievous day for the Egyptian. So he's talking about the Hebrews and the Egyptian. This is what the Canaanites called them. He called them Egyptian. So that should tell you right there that all 12 sons of Jacob looked just like the Egyptian, because they was also black people too. They were black. The 12 sons were black. How the hell what else can a Canaanite get mistake the 12 sons of Israel to be Egyptian if they wasn't black? Let me read this again. It says right there in verse 11, when the inhabitants of the land of the Canaanites saw the mourning of the floor of Atad. They said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptian. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And like I said, so he mistaken the 12 sons of Jacob, who was going to bury their body of their father in the land of Canaanite. He was taking them as Egyptians, man. Like I said, if they was white, the Canaanites going to be like, wait, why the Hebrews with the Egyptians? No, they didn't. He said that he called these Hebrews Egyptians, because he said there was a grievous day for the Egyptians. And he included Hebrews to be the Egyptians. So that means right there that the children of Israel were a black people. And when you look at the sons, when you look at the definition of Ham in any dictionary, Bible dictionary, it will tell you that Ham is a progenitor of the dark race, but not the Negros, but the progenitor, but the father of the Ethiopians, Cush. He's the father of Ethiopia, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Not the Negros. Not the Negroes. So why not the Negroes? Because the Negroes are not Hamites, but Negroes do look just like the sons of daughters of Ham. Because they was black. It is that simple. Now, I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 2, and I'm going to read verse 11 through 19. We're going to read about Moses. And I also got missing books of the Bible, like the book of Joshua, that's going to explain everything about Moses. Because Moses was mistaken as Egyptians too. And because of his clothes, because I'm going to go to the book of Joshua, there's a lot of things that a lot of people didn't know about Moses. Because he was a general, because according to history, Moses was a general in Egypt. And also he was a king of the Ethiopians. We're going to read all that. And we're going to come to this conclusion that he was mistaken as Egyptians when he went to the land of Midian. So I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 2 and verse 11 through 19. It says right here, it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out into his brother and looked on their burden, and he spied an Egyptian and a Hebrew of his brother. He looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out in the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strolled together. And he said unto him, that did the wrong. Wherefore that smite is that neighbor? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge over us? And intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, certainly this thing is known. I'm going to stop right there. So, verse 15, the Pharaoh heard this thing, and he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelled in the land of Midian. And he sat by the well. And I'm going to stop right there. Now I'm going to go to the book of Joshua, chapter 71 and verse 1 through 16, because there's something more to the story. And I'm going to tell you something. The book of Joshua is the missing book they took out the Bible for a reason, because they don't want you to understand Moses and everything else in the Bible. They don't even want you to understand Genesis clearly. That's why they took the book of Joshua out. And you can read about the book of Joshua in the book of Joshua, also in the book of Samuel. I think 1st and 2nd, it talks about the book of Joshua. Then you got to go back and read certain things. So that means our forefathers knew about the book of Joshua, just like they knew about the Apocrypha. Now we're going to go back to the book of Joshua. We're going to go to the book of Joshua. I got it online. I actually got the book, so I'm going to read this online. And I'm going to read chapter 71. If anybody got the book of Joshua, I want you to read along with me. And I'm going to start with verse 1 through 16. There's only 16 verses in chapter 71 of the book of Joshua. I'm going to read all of it. We're going to find a lot of things about Moses, so we can get to the conclusion that he was mistaken as an Egyptian. But I'm going to read something that most of these counts is not reading, because they're too lazy. They read what they want to read because they want to cover up their lives. I'm going all the way with this lesson. So I hope y'all bear with me. So I'm going to go to the book of Joshua, chapter 71. I'm going to start at verse 1. It said, when Moses was 18 years old, he desired to see his father and mother, and he went to them into Goshen. And when Moses come near Goshen, he came to the place where the children of Israel engaged in work. And he observed a burden, and he saw the Egyptian smiting one of the Hebrews, the brother. Now, it said the same thing in the book of Exodus chapter 2 and verse 11. It came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out into his brother and looked for their look at their burdens, and he spied that the Egyptian Hebrew wanted to smite one of his brothers. So you know that the book of Joshua goes along with the book of Exodus to chapter 2, because it said the exact thing, nothing changes, except for the book of Joshua. It just gives you a whole big picture of what Exodus talked about and what actually went wrong, what went down. And so he was 18 years old when he went to see his father and mother. He also spied on how his people was living and how they was badly being treated by the Egyptian. Now I'm going to go to verse 2. And not just that though, but he also spied the Egyptian was smiting one of the Hebrews, his people, and he didn't like that crap. Now verse 2, when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to him for help. For the man, Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh, and he said to him, my Lord attended to me that the Egyptian come to my house in night and bound me and came to my wife in my presence, and now he seeks to take my life away. Because you got to understand, why Abraham told the Egyptian and the king that this is my sister? Because they was known to taking people's wives and killing their husbands. That's how cold-hearted they was. And they was evil for that stuff right there. They was known for that stuff back then. And I wouldn't be surprised if the real Egyptians, the black ones today, still do the same thing as they custom. You know what I'm saying? So let me read verse 2 again. He said, when the man was beaten saw Moses, he ran to them for help. For the man, Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, my Lord attended to me. This Egyptian came to my house at night and bound me, and came to my wife in my presence, and now he seeks to take my life away. Verse 3, when Moses heard this wicked thing, his anger was kindled against the Egyptian, and he turned this way and the other, and he saw that there was no man there, and he smote the Egyptian and hid him in the sand, and delivered the Hebrew from the hand of him that smote them. And we can read the same thing, Exodus chapter 2. Let me read that again. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 12. He said, he looked this way and that way. When he saw that there was no man, he swooped the Egyptians and hid them in the sand. So that's the same thing we just read in the book of Joshua chapter 71 verse 4. At verse 3, I mean. Now I'm back at Joshua chapter 73 at verse 4 now. And the Hebrews went to his house. The Hebrew went to this house, and Moses returned to his home and went forth to come back to the king's house. Right? So he came back to the king's house. And when the man returned home, he thought of we predated his wife. And for it was not a right thing in the house of Jacob for any man to come to his wife after she has been defiled. And a woman went and told her brothers, and a woman's brothers sought to slay him, but he fled to his house and escaped. So the woman got pissed off because the man was white, because she was defiled. He didn't want to sleep with her because he didn't know if she really liking it or not. But she had some nerve to even go to her brother's house or go to her brothers and try to get them to kill them because he didn't want to sleep with her after she was being defiled. Right? So what happened on the second day? And on the second day, Moses went forth to his brother and saw, behold, two men were squirming. And he said to the wicked one, why dost thou smite that neighbor? So the wicked one was that woman's brother. And the man had smite the victim, the one who was bound up, and he watched his wife get raped or had trains run up on her. He asked her, why you smite your neighbor down like that, man? And look what he said. He answered it to him and said to him, who has set thee for a prince and a judge over us? Dost thou think to slay me as thou slayed the Egyptian? And Moses was afraid. And he said, certainly this thing is known. Let me stop right there. And they say the same thing in the book of Exodus chapter 2. Let me read that again. Let me read that where it says it here. He said, when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strolled together. And he said to them who did it wrong, wherefore smitest thou fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge over us? And you intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, certain this thing is known. So you know how the book of Joshua said the same thing what the Bible had to say. So the book of Joshua is part of the Bible. This is the midst of books in the Bible. This is the witness what the Bible had to say. It is mistakable that it say the same exact thing, breaks it down in detail. And we know that the ones who hit his neighbor, that was the woman's brother, like I said, right? So let's go back to Joshua chapter 71, and we're going to read verse 9. And Pharaoh heard this affair. He ordered Moses to be slain. So God sent his angel, and he appeared unto Pharaoh in the likeness of a captain of the guard. And the angel of the Lord took the sword from the hand of the captain of the guard and took his head off with it. And for the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned into likeness of Moses. That's what I love about the Lord. He would do all this for our people, just like he did for Moses. I mean, this angel is smooth. He disguised as the Egyptian captain and then changed it to Moses, and changed it to the likeness of Moses so Moses could escape. And let's read right there. We'll stop right there. Now we're going to read verse 15. We're going to read the same thing. He said, when Pharaoh heard this thing, Exodus chapter 2, verse 15, we're going to read this. When Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. And Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Miriam. And he sat down by the well. Now, something went on before he went to the Miriam, because he never went to the Miriam that quickly, because he fled towards the Ethiopian before he went to the land of the Midianites. We're going to read right here one more time in verse 9. And Pharaoh heard this affair. He ordered Moses to be slain. So God sent his angel, and he appeared unto Pharaoh like the likeness of the captain of the guard. And the angel took the sword of the hand of the captain of the guard and took his head off with it. And for the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned into the likeness of Moses. Right? In verse 11, the angel of the Lord took Moses by the right hand of Moses. Let me read again. Verse 11, the angel of the Lord took hold of the right hand of Moses and brought him forth from Egypt and placed him without the borders of Egypt, a distance of 40 days' journey. And Aaron and his brother alone remained in the land in Egypt, and he prophesied to the children of Israel, saying, thus says the Lord God of your ancestors, throw away each man in the abomination of his eye, and do not defile yourself with the idols of Egypt. The children of Israel rebelled and would not hearken to Aaron at that time. The Lord thought to destroy them. It was not that the Lord remembered the covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In those days, the hand of Pharaoh continued to serve against the children of Israel, and he crushed and oppressed them until the time when the Lord sent forth his word and took notice of them. Now we know we got the story of Moses, and it was the angel of the Lord that got Moses out of Egypt. It's going to be like that again when the time comes. I ain't going to try to get off topic. It's going to take the angel of the Lord that got us, though, as we keep these laws. But my point is, though, we're going to find out what Moses went to. Because there's certain things I want to read before we get to the part how he was mistaken as the Egyptian, though. So I just want to get to certain points right quick. So now we're going to go to Joshua. Let me see. Joshua. I want to go to Joshua. Let me see. Let me see, Joshua. I'm going to read Joshua chapter 72 right quick, y'all. Bear with me. It says, Joshua chapter 72, I'm going to start verse 1. It was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of the east of Aaron. And they rebelled against the king of Cush. In those hands they were. And Calcarenes, the king of Cush, went forth of all the children of Cush, and people numbers as the sand. He went to fight against Aaron, the children of the east, to bring them under suggestion. But Cankerins went out and left Balaam, the musician, with his two sons to guard the city and the Lord saw of the people of the land. So Cankerins went forth to the children of Aaron of the east and fought against them and smote them, and they fell down and watered before Cankerins and his people. He took many of them captives, and he brought them under suggestion as the first, and he had kept upon their land to take tribute from them as usually. Balaam, the son of Beryl, the king of Cush, left them and to guard the city and the poor in the city. And to guard the city and the poor of the city, he rose up and advanced with the people of the land to rebel against Cankernis and not to let him enter into the city where he should become home. And the people of the land hearkened to him, and they smote him and made him king over them, and his two sons captains of the army. So now you got Balaam, the son of Beryl, which is the Midianites. You can read about the Bible, because you understand those were the Egyptians' magicians at the time. Moses was about to kill them too, and they knew it, and that's why they fled towards Cush before Moses. You know what I'm saying? And so they got into Cush, they turned their back against the king of Ethiopia. And to the point they had people rebelled against the king and his soldiers. I want to get to the point Moses came there and helped them out. So let me see. Okay, I'm close, y'all. Bear with me. Just bear with me. Because y'all will learn something. Okay, I'm right here. Okay, verse 22. It says, Moses was 18 years old when he fled from Egypt in the presence of Pharaoh, and he fled and to escape to the camp of Kikaris, if I pronounced it right, which at that time was Besieged Cush. And Moses was 9 years in the camp of Kikaris, the king of Cush, and all the time, and they were besieged Cush. And Moses went out and came with them. So Moses fled towards the Ethiopians before he went to the land of Midian. But that's not all, but I'm going to read something that y'all didn't know about Moses. And the king and the prince. Okay, so the king and the prince, be quiet. The king and prince of the fight men loved Moses, for he was great and worthy. His stature was like a noble lion. His face was like the sun, and his strength was like of a lion. He was a counselor to the king. So they liked Moses because not just, he was built and he had strength, but he also was a counselor. Because y'all got to understand, Moses understood war because he was a general of the Egyptian army, and he led them to many battles and victories. He served as general and fought against the Cushites. So I would be surprised they knew that was the same Moses that they came and helped them out. So let me see. Where was that? Let me see. In verse 25. So the end of 9 years, Cankerus was seized with a mortal disease. His illness prevailed over him, and he died on his 7th day. His servants embraced him and carried him and buried him in the opposite of the city, a gate to the north of the Lord, in the land of Egypt. They built over him an elegant, strong, and high, and built it, and they placed great stones below. And the king's scribes engraved upon the stones all the might of their king Cankerus and all the battles which he fought, and behold, they were written there at this day. And now after the death of Cankerus, the king of Cush, it grieved his men and troops greatly on account of the war. So they said to one another, give us counsel, what we are to do at this time? We reside in the wilderness 9 years away from our homes. If we say that we will fight against city, many of us will fall wounded and killed. If we remain here in the siege, we will also die. For now the kings of Aram, of the children of the east will hear that the king is dead, they will attack us certainly in a hostile manner, and they will fight against us, and leave no remnant of us. And now, verse 33, and now therefore let us make king over us. Let us remain in the siege until the city delivered to us. They wishes to choose on that day a man from the army of Kikaris, and they found no jack of their choice like Moses to range over them. Now we find out before Moses fled, after he fled from Egypt, he went to Ethiopia to escape. We find out like once he got there, he helped them try to fight against the people, in their territory. They made Moses king of Ethiopia after Kikaris had died. They made him a king in Ethiopia, so Moses was a king before he stepped down and went to the land of Midian. So Moses has some experience under his belt, and that's why the Lord used him. Right? So Moses reigned over them. So they hasted and stripped off each man his garments and cast upon the ground, and they made a great heap and placed Moses therein. They rose up and blew trumpets and called out before him and said, may the king live, and may the king live. And all the people and the nobles sworn unto them to give him for his wife Adanath, the queen, the Cushite, the wife of Kinkinis, and they made Moses king over that day. So they gave the Ethiopian queen, the widow of her former king, Kinkinis, to be the queen of Moses and the wife of Moses. But Moses, Moses never married. Moses never married nobody. He never married her, even though they made her to be the wife of Moses, but he never slept with her. We're gonna find that out too. So they can kill this false doctrine about interracial dating, because Moses wasn't down with the interracial dating. He was down for his people, 100%. Now, verse 38, and all the people of Cush issued a proclamation on that day, saying, every man must give something to Moses, what is in his possession. And they spread out a sheet upon hip, every man casted upon something of what he had, a gold earring, and another of a coin. And an oxen scorn, beer of pearls, marble, and did the children of Cush cast unto Moses upon the hip, unto the silver and gold is great abundance. Moses took all of the silver and gold and vessels and medallions and oxen stones, where all the children of Cush has given to him. He placed them amongst his treasures. Moses reigns over the children of Cush on that day in the place of Kinkiris, the king of Cush. Now we just found out that Moses was the king of the Ethiopians before he went to the land of the Midianites. Now I'm gonna go a little further. I ain't gonna spend all day because I ain't got that much time. Y'all know YouTube is cheap as hell. Now we're gonna go to the book. We're gonna go to Joshua chapter 73, and we're gonna read about Moses' wife after he became queen. After he became king. Forgive me. After he became king, and the Cushites gave him a queen for his wife, to replace the king. Now I'm gonna see. Let's go down to verse. Let's go to. Let me see. Joshua chapter 73. Let me see. Joshua chapter 73. Okay. Joshua chapter 73. I'm going to start at verse 30. It says, Moses took the city by his wisdom. Why? Because you got to understand, like I said, Moses was a general. He was a general of the he was the general of the Egyptian. He understood the strategies of war, and he took the city of wisdom. Let me read it again. So Moses took the city by his wisdom, and the children of Cush placed him on the throne instead of Kinkiris, the king of Cush. And they placed the royal crown upon his head, and they gave him a wife, Adanath, the Cushite queen of Kinkiris. Now that's why when you go to the book of Numbers, they talk about, well, Moses married an Ethiopian woman, and the Lord was cool with it. Now we're gonna find out the story about that, because they read that and they don't have no understanding. And the only time that Miriam was cursed because she was on the line and she had no business talking to a man like that, try to take him out of his position because she had a problem with Moses. But she wasn't wrong as far as interracial dating because the Lord said we were supposed to do it. That's why the Lord struck her butt down because she was on the spot to go try to question Moses as far as, his leadership. And not just her, but Aaron did the same thing. Because the Bible said, "Let the woman be quiet in church," and that's why she was struck. That's why she was struck with leprosy. That's a punishment of her talking to a man who's in a higher position that God set up. But notice when you read the book of Numbers, Aaron, the Lord never struck Aaron with the leprosy. Why? Because Aaron did not know that it was given to him. And Aaron knew that he was only trying to make sure Moses kept the laws. That's why the Lord never struck Aaron with the leprosy in the book of Numbers. Because he knew that the Lord knew that Aaron knew that it was against the Hebrew customs, against the laws of God in heaven to marry outside your race. But Miriam was struck with leprosy because she wasn't in her place when she got up on Moses' face. And most of these sisters do that today. And that's why the Lord's going to put some of these sisters to death. Now, I'm going to read this again. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a little out of topic. Let me see. Verse 30. Moses took the city by his wisdom, and the children of Cush placed him at the throne instead of Kinkerus, the king of Cush. They placed the royal crown upon his head, and they gave him a wife, Adoneth, the Cushite queen, the wife of Kinkerus. Verse 32. Moses feared the Lord of his. Let me read it again. Moses feared the Lord God of his fathers, so that he came not to her, nor did he turn his eye to her. So when they gave him the Cushite queen, Moses ain't even thought about it. He didn't even look at her. Why? Because he thought about the God of Israel, and he knew it was against the law to marry outside your nations. Moses remember how Abraham had made the servant of Eleazar swear and said to him, "Thou shalt not take a woman from the daughters of Canaan for my son Isaac." In verse 34, Isaac did with Jacob when he fled from his brother, and he commanded him and said, "Thou shalt not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan, nor make an alliance with any of the children of Ham. For the Lord our God gave Ham, the son of Noah, and his children and all his seed as slaves to the children of Shem, and the children of Japheth until they see after them as slaves forever." Y'all hearing this right here? The Lord don't care about the other nations. The Lord ain't made these other nations to be that had the same equal rights as Israelites. He said that he created the children of Ham and Japheth to be slaves to the children of Shem. Who's the children of Shem? The children of Israel. And you can read the same thing in the Bible because he said he created all nations according to the number of Israel. And he also said the same thing in the book of Leviticus that he made the other nations to be our servants forever. You can read that in the Bible. Verse 36. And therefore Moses turned not his heart nor his eyes to the wife of Kinkerus all the days he reigned over Cush. Moses feared the Lord God all his life. Moses walked before the Lord in truth with all his heart and soul. He turned not from the right all the days of his life, and he declined from neither to the right or to the left, which Abraham, Isaac, Jacob had walked. So I'm going to read that because even though they gave him a queen out of Ethiopia, but Moses ain't thought about her, and he did not love her because it would be against God's laws to marry outside your race. So I hope y'all understand this. Shh. Now I'm going to go to the book of Joshua, chapter 76, and verse 1 through 18. Zalera, give your sister a cup. Give this to her. Here. Yeah, get that to her. Sorry, that's my dog's waking up for a nap. I'm going to have to continue is in part 3, y'all. And part 2 starts Joshua chapter 76 and verse 1 through 18. You take that as power right quick. Shalom.